Dr. Homebrew is brought to you by 5-Star Chemicals, providing safety and cleaning supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Here we are once again, Dr. Homebrew. Just hanging out in the studio, man. Homebrew. Just drinking beer, hanging out.
Drinking beer and having more fun than you.
Looking at.
Maybe not.
Well, maybe we don't know what you're doing.
Don't know. Yeah.
I mean,
How would we know? How would we possibly know?
This is the podcast, right? You could be doing. You could be on your boat. You could be on your yacht. You could
We're
be.
in the pod and you're outcast.
Speaking of podcasts, are they going to call it podcast forever? Because, like, who has an iPod anymore? You just listen to music on your phone or your
Phonecast, but Phonecast doesn't sound as good. Or like personal small electronic device cast.
You might download it to your actual computer and listen to it there. But who has a
Pisscast?
I have an iPod, but it's like, I don't know. I upgraded my computer and it doesn't have all my music on it anymore. It's just old.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has music on their local device anymore. Like, it's all in the cloud, right? Isn't that the big thing, that the kids are worried about the cloud?
Well, I've got mine on my local device, but I'm kind of a dinosaur. Anyways, I think people cooler than us, if it's possible to imagine, will come up with a new name for podcasting.
Snoozecast.
I'm not sure that's possible, but...
But is it podsable?
But, yeah. Okay, it's possible.
Whatever. This mess is brought to you by our fine sponsor, 5-Star Chemicals. You can go to 5starchemicals.com and learn about all the ways to clean and sanitize your brewing equipment. Because if you're longtime listeners of the show or longtime homebrewers, maybe you don't know this, but you cannot clean and sanitize your brewing equipment at the same time. You must clean it first and then sanitize it. Don't believe anything else. The folks at 5-Star have been doing a lot of research over the years, and they've been teaching professional brewers and home brewers how to properly do this stuff. And you guys need to learn it, man. That's the first step to making better beer is to make sure you clean and then sanitize.
Yes. And for those of you who've already learned it, you get this stuff.
You know, man. And 5-Star has been helping you guys make consistently killer beer for however long you've been brewing. So, keep it up, man. And thank them, too, because they've been a sponsor for us since 2 years or so. I forget when they got on.
But I think almost since we started.
I think they were the first. I think that we weren't going to do the show until they came on or something like that.
Actually, that's an interesting, because we're right around our second-year anniversary for this show right now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we sat around and recorded versions of this show in a basement where nobody actually listened to them for a while.
We had rats as the audience.
Yes. We had no sponsors.
We still might.
But then, 5-Star came along and said, hey, we'll sponsor you guys. And so then it became a show. Yeah.
It was. They definitely have been with us since day one, and we really appreciate it. So check them out at 5starchemicals.com. Okay, we have a couple really great beers today. We have a cream ale, and then we have a smoked Baltic Porter with 3 kinds of smoked malts and aged on oak.
It's a specialty Baltic Porter, which has been smoked and oaked.
Smoked, oaked, and coked.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Coked.
I think that's Brian's. Brian's new album coming out.
I'm not getting that effect yet.
Smoked, oaked, and coked. Yeah. Brian Cooper live in his basement. Anyway, okay, so we have Tyler on the line now, and Tyler is our cream ale guy. Let me load this first before I forget. Okay, Tyler, are you with us, buddy?
I'm here.
All right.
You hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
All right, while the guys are pouring the beer. So Tyler, you should work in like some sort of freight because some packaging company. Like it felt like you took a solid block of plastic and then you carved out perfectly formed shapes for the bottles, leaving a thumb hole, like leaving a space for me to put my big fat Greek thumb into the neck of the bottle and pull it out.
You got to leave something there to get them out, right?
They were wedged in there so perfect. I should have brought it. It was like carbon fiber. It was amazing,
designed to fit the bottle.
It was.
I actually work for a company. We do a lot of stuff with foam. So I'm like, well, what's the best way to ship this out there and not have to worry about something breaking? Maybe insulate it a little bit. So I took a scrap piece and just kind of cut it up and.
You did it.
All about the presentation. It's like you're opening up an Apple product. Yeah. The packaging is half the joy of getting the thing.
I did an unboxing event, but I had problems uploading it to YouTube. So Anyway,
we missed out on that part. So do not color our impressions of the beer.
That's true.
That's right. His hair was perfect.
Tyler, how long have you been homebrewing then?
I started at the end of 2013, so going on 2 years. Haven't really brewed super regularly. This is actually only batch number 9. So,
oh wow, okay.
I had been brewing extract for a while. One of my friends actually gave me a hand-me-down, 10-gallon cooler mash tun with a manifold system for instead, not a false bottom, but this is my second all grain batch. So
it wasn't even into the double digits. Let alone triple digits
before hitting all grain.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah, the transition before double digit batch number. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, what made you go all grain so early?
Well, I tell you what it was. I've been brewing extract, and it's the ability to control your process, I guess. I never was able to get my extract stuff to finish out below 10-10, 10-12. So I kind of wanted to be able to affect that, and using adjuncts and wheat, and just being able to manipulate the recipes a little more.
I compare it to like driving a stick shift versus driving an automatic. But then I don't drive a stick shift, so it's like, well, that doesn't really work. Like a car with all the bells and whistles versus just your base model, maybe a better
power windows versus manual windows.
And it makes sense for a guy who can carve foam to sub-micron tolerances.
I could actually use a CNC machine and cut it real nice, but I didn't have time for that. So
they have a great music factory, I hear.
There are a wee number of geeks in our
Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for the laugh.
Our hobby, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, let's jump into this cream ale. Brian,
hi.
You look the most ready.
Yeah. So for the cream ale, lightly sweet and clean corn-like aroma up front. Definitely, it has. The malt character to me is pretty nice. It's a little bit of DMS in there, which is okay for the style at low levels. Seems to have a low kind of spicy hop in there. Nothing too intense or biting or crazy, but just balanced with the style a little bit. You don't want too much of that, so that's good. No diacetyls, cleanly brewed. It seems like, and the aroma a bit bold for the style, you could say maybe, but not harsh. Just a little bit fruity, kind of a subdued fruitiness, low general. There's a little fruity ester in there. Okay, that's fine. Appearance wise, I mean, because this beer style is kind of basically the ale version of Budweiser, kind of meant to be, right?
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just lawnmower beer, brewed as an ale, not gin, the ginny, that kind of thing. Sip it all day and it won't get you wasted.
What's the ginny? I hear the ginny and I think of a generator.
Ginny.
Genesee cream ale.
Oh,
it's hard to find out here.
It's like the East Coast thing.
It's hard to find here too.
Yeah, so it's appearance-wise, it has a pretty rich golden color, not quite as pale as hoped for, and it also had a slight bit of haze. Although this one seems a little bit better than the second sample we poured here. We just keep opening bottles and pouring them. And
Throwing them around the room.
JP threw him around in his car for a while.
That's what I do. I just don't care about anything.
There was the rumor about the roller coaster at Disneyland, and
I mean, it was in transit for 4 days too, so
it's true.
No, but we tried to look past that a little bit, and it's not hurting it terribly. I didn't think.
It's not.
The low off-white creamy head that faded pretty soon after pouring, and in the flavor it has a rich malty flavor with a low corn. I found a bit of alcohol evident in this, and that was one of the things that I thought kind of detracted from the beer. It's supposed to be pretty smooth and low alcohol. Not low, but like medium strength, 5% alcohol beer kind of.
right.
And it seems just a little bolder than that on the alcohol front. I mean, it was also the first beer we drank tonight too. So now, after we had 6 other beers, it's not too bad. But yeah. No, it's it is a little evident. It's a little bit bigger than expected, but not way crazy over the top. Hop bitterness I found to be medium low. I noticed kind of a minerally water presentation in this. It gives some crispness, which is desired, but it was a little high to the point of almost being a little distracting, like a minerally sulfatey kind of character in there that seemed to be popping out in the water. So we'll talk about water with you and see what you did, what your base water is like, how you treated it, what you used. But maybe it might not be the water; it might just be something else. So, but yeah, it's kind of playing off the hop a little bit too, I think, with that. And the hop didn't seem insane or anything. So it's the bitterness especially is pretty restrained. So that was good. If you went crazy with that, it would really go nuts and be like a British pale ale kind of a thing. The minerals and the hops together. But yeah, it does give it a little different presentation. And but yeah, it's seems like a clean ale fermentation, fairly dry finish, malty and a little bit of alcohol in the aftertaste, but clean and fairly crisp, which was nice. Body wise, it's medium bodied. A little hint of alcohol warmth. I'm feeling it too. I'm not just tasting it.
I get that. Yeah,
it's crisp and clean and not very. It's not very smooth or creamy, but it's also not really astringent. The carbonation is kind of medium down the middle of the road. The overall, this is a flavorful and interesting cream ale. I've never brewed a cream ale myself, honestly, but it is. You could drink it while you're mowing your lawn, but it seems like the alcohol's a little high that you might mow the wrong part of your lawn. If you drank too many of them and took too long, and you have a big lawn, and you have to drink 6 of them to get through it, you're not going to make it.
What if you don't have a lawn?
If you don't have a lawn, you could go do your laundry, and you might mix your reds with your whites.
Laundry beer.
And
laundry beer.
All your shirts come out pink at the end.
That's important. You don't want that to happen, so can't drink the big beer. Anyways.
Yeah, I thought, again, the bitterness level and the overall malt flavor profile in this beer were really nice. You had a good corn-like character in there. Just pushing up a little too high in the alcohol, and the water profile was a little odd, and then with a dry finish. I mean, it was weird to me because it seemed like there's good malt flavors in there, but also seemed a bit, and it was a little bit alcoholic. But at the same time, it almost seemed a little watery. Like the way the minerals played off everything else, it had a little kind of watery character to it in a weird way. Just a bit too minerally. It might be slightly more reminiscent of, the pre-Prohibition version of the style was actually a little stronger and a little bit bolder flavors and but I don't know that this would be like that either. It's just something interesting in the water, and we'll talk about that. But we'll see what Lee got us. I gave the beer a 32. I thought it was a very good, well-brewed beer. So
okay,
yeah, tasty,
awesome. Lee,
all right,
go for it, buddy.
Yeah, so this style is basically the ale version of a light American lager or standard American lager, and it comes across as that pretty well. No, very easy drinking, very light body, fairly low intensity beer throughout.
Yeah.
I got some honey sweetness in the nose, a little bit of corn, a little bit of what I originally thought was a kind of a wordy character, although I don't think that was really a very accurate perception. Pretty much no hops in the nose or esters, no diacetyl. I didn't really pick up much DMS, but I was getting some sulfur, like a sulfite. So, I mean, maybe I'm on a similar page to Brian there, if not exactly the same one. But I was getting some sulfur in the nose. I thought the honey character was a bit much for the style. Otherwise, it's pretty much okay by the nose.
Yeah.
Golden pale color. It's interesting. If you look straight on it, it's actually sort of a medium gold. If you hold it up to the light in here, it's almost like water. It's so
weird.
pale.
Okay, yeah.
It's a very, and that might be because it's got a little bit of haze. It's causing some diffraction effects in here.
Well, we're sipping in these kind of bowl-like little sample glasses with a round bottom. So
I noticed a little haze also, guys.
Okay.
Yeah. It's got a little haze, and I don't know if that's because GP was.
I put it on the thieves, right?
Like
we get it.
Before he got here, or whatever. Yeah.
Was it
We're blaming it on him.
I did the salsa from the parking garage over here.
Yeah.
Was it bottle conditioned, or is it from a keg?
Yeah, it's bottle conditioned. I'm still bottling, guys.
Yeah.
It's my least.
How
it's my
dare
least
you?
favorite, Yeah, least favorite brewing process for sure.
Yeah. So it was when you hold it up to the light, it's very pale. So, which is pretty appropriate. Pours a low foam, fades to a low bead, which for this style is fine. These aren't beers you expect to have much head on. Flavor, again, it's the honey pills malt, medium low spicy hops, slightly sweet malt, medium IBUs. Balance is about even. Wasn't really picking up any esters per se. Again, I was getting sort of sulfur sulfite kind of character. I was wondering if it's a ferment character, like if you use a lager yeast. Could also be water if you have sulfite water or added gypsum to the water as well. To me, the malt came across sort of like what I've interpreted as being like a heavier 6-row kind of malt flavor, but I'm not going to say you use that. Maybe you'll tell us, but that's kind of what it seemed to me. It finishes dry. Lingering hop and sulfur, much more than the malt. Hop flavor and sulfur. I thought the hop flavor is maybe a bit much for style, but it might be because it's being augmented by some of this kind of sulfury, sulfitey, minerally character a bit much.
And that will enhance.
It gives it more
hop flavor?
crispness and enhances the hop flavor. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Calcium sulfate. Now, gypsum's a classic addition if you want to bring up the hop characteristics.
Right, okay. But I'd never heard that about the sulfur.
Right. Well, that's the part that does it, really. It's not the calcium that does it. It's the sulfate that does it.
Sulfate.
You add calcium chloride to a beer, it's not going to bring up your hop character.
I heard sulfur.
Yeah.
Would sulfur, as in any kind of sulfur, like DMS, H2S, will do the same thing?
I don't think hydrogen sulfide, the H2S, will do that. Sulfates and sulfites probably would.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's the SO4 thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty much the style. It seems a little bit mineral hop forward, and the balance it makes it crisp, which is nice and light, but it maybe is overbalancing the malt a little bit. Medium high carbonation, medium low body, no alcoholic warmth at all, which is pretty much right. A little bit drying from the carbonation, which is a little high, and maybe some of that sulfur character. Overall, I thought it was a drinkable, quenching cream ale, well balanced and sprightly from the gas. Honey and malt character seem a bit heavy, but in quality, if not intensity. And that's sort of that 6-row flavor I was talking about. And I don't know if you use that or not, but it sort of comes across. Maybe it was preconception on my part. I don't know. But it has that sort of heavier malt character to it.
A husky or something?
Yeah.
Oh.
So if you use that, maybe use less of it. I don't know. If you used... Well, like Brian said, we should probably talk about whether there was water treatments or sulfur or anything like that in here. Probably a little less would help. But
what score did
other
you
than
give
that, I gave it a 30. I thought it was a pretty decent beer. I could definitely drink that. I could drink this while running the power lawnmower on my lawn.
Oh, yeah.
Although I don't have a power lawnmower or a lawn. But, if I did.
But I could still drink it.
Yeah.
This is the precursor. Now you want to rip out concrete and put a lawn in.
Well, there's a lot of asphalt up my street I could do that on.
See?
Yeah, I don't actually have much concrete I could rip up to put a
Who's
lawn
this
in.
guy drinking light ale and tearing down all our concrete?
Why is my street now grass?
Right. Well, Tyler, let's talk a little bit about the water then, since that seems to be what these guys are focusing on. What do you do anything at all to your water?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the water here is Indianapolis tap water, filtered. But it's really hard water. I want to say total alkalinity is over 160.
Calcium
so I
carbonate.
cut that.
Yeah.
So
is that super hard? Is that really considered very hard? I don't know much about.
That's pretty high.
That's pretty hard. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I want to say it's like around 165, 170, somewhere in there. So I cut it back with distilled water, like a third of my water with distilled water. Treated it with a Camden tablet, and I mean that's my water.
What does that do?
That's just going to kill any bugs in your water. Yeah.
Chloramines gets rid of that.
Okay.
Yeah, more for chlorine and chloramines is what I was
yeah.
thinking. Any kind of off flavors you get from having that in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you can boil it for a long time and do something. But yeah, that wastes energy.
I didn't want to do that though.
Yeah.
So what's the sulfate content in your water? Do you know?
I don't know. I do not know.
Okay. Usually, local water reports. If you can find whoever your local water district is, they should have an annual report that'll give you at least an average value for what you're getting, and you can get that figured out.
Yeah. See, we had you pegged for a homebrew that just takes their tap water and just dumps a couple of tablespoons of gypsum into every batch. And here he does everything just like, wow, that's what I would do with that water. Well, that's what I would do with that water. Yeah. No,
I'm
that's
not.
great.
I don't know what I'm doing enough to be, nor do I have a scale accurate enough to be measuring, grams of,
Sure. Yeah. No.
metals for water.
If your water is a little carbonate and alkaline, then cutting it with with some RO or some distilled water like you did is a good plan. So, yeah. I mean, the water is not bad. It's not intense, but we both kind of got that.
Yeah.
That
Did you use
something in there?
I would guess you used an ale yeast. Is that true?
I did. I used. You want me just to go through the recipe?
Let's go through the recipe. Yeah.
So Lee, excellent guess on the 6th row. We actually had a contest at our local homebrew store, Great Fermentations, and 50% of the grain bill had to be a locally sourced 6th row malt. So.
And out there, you can actually get locally sourced 6th row.
Yeah, there's a place in a nearby town. It's called Sugar Creek Malt Company, and they're fairly new, but they've partnered up, I guess. And so basically, just short of 51% of my grain bill was 6th row. So that's 5.5 pounds, 4 pounds of the Weyermann's Pilsner malt, which was like 37%. A pound of flaked corn, which was just a hair over 9%, and then 1/3 of a pound of sugar. But the way I did the sugar, so I did not use that in the mash. That's not a ton of sugar, but I made a syrup and added that when primary fermentation started to slow down.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Just trying to drive fermentation as much as possible.
It's very Belgian of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did dry out the finish there. Yeah.
But it really dried it out. So before I added the sugar, I was at 1049. And after fermentation, I was down at 1005. So it fermented out further than I thought it was going to. I mashed at 149.
Yeah. And with
75-minute boil.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I used... I guess I'll go with the hops real quick here. 0.8 ounces of a 4.9% Liberty at 60 minutes and 3/4 of an ounce at 18 minutes.
For how big a batch?
5-gallon batch. So six gallons at the end of the boil, 5.5 in the fermenter, leaving you with the 5 gallons of beer.
Right. That might be what we're picking up then is some of the sulfur characteristics. That's probably a fair amount of flavor hop for a cream ale for that batch. I mean, at a 10-gallon batch, that would be 1.5 ounces. Yeah,
right.
that's for such a delicate beer. That's probably a pretty big flavor hop charge.
Okay, at the end there,
and that can come across as a little sulfury sometimes.
Well,
really?
also the
self-deception, but yeah, it's in the same sort of flavor register.
Okay.
Gravity-wise, you probably intended to finish at 10, 11 or 10 something in there. Yeah,
somewhere around 10 is what
10,
I was thinking.
Yeah.
Leaving you 5, 5.25, maybe 5.4%, somewhere in there.
Even going down from 1049 to 1005, that's going to get you up towards 6% already, and then with the addition of that pound, that's maybe push what the original gravity would have been up to a little higher, 1055 or something, or who knows? But yeah, that's going to be a 6% or so now, right?
No, yeah, it's so I get basically maybe 3 points for gravity for that 1/3 pound of sugar.
Yeah, so like 1052,
1052, 1053,
Yeah. So it's on the high end, definitely, or it's a little outside of style for the alcohol level.
Right. Let's see here. I used White Labs Clarity Firm on this because I've had issues with a lot of my beers lately, even extract having a chill haze.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if you think that could be due to the more protein in the 6-row malt.
For this beer, possibly that is a higher protein malt. But you said it was only 50% of the malt that was in there, right?
Yeah, correct.
And the rest what was the rest? Was it corn or?
Pilsner, 37% Pilsner, and a pound of flaked corn, which was just under 10%, actually 9.25%.
Should have been too much, right?
That you might have had a little extra protein, a little extra tannin in there, which would tend to precipitate it out more from that 6-row.
Okay.
Yeah, I could definitely taste that huskiness type of thing you were talking about too.
Yeah,
we prefer big boned.
Right.
Yeah. As you pour it, there's like a hint of pink almost, like a light, like as you pour it in the glass, and maybe that was just the light from your shirt or something like that.
It has a really weird color when you pour it. And I was thinking it was the lighting in this room, but
it might be
pink.
Yeah, check it out.
It does, yeah.
Although we prefer big boned.
Reddish orange.
Like there may be it looks like there's a touch of cranberry juice or something in it. I'm not saying that there is in the beer, but it's just this weird.
Rest assured that there's no cranberry juice.
Yeah.
It's not the cranberry wit we drank too.
No, not at all. All right, well, Tyler, do you have any more questions for the guys, or vice versa? I guess.
Yeah. How would you recommend fine tuning this? I mean, I definitely get what you're saying. It's like it's a little too sharp. It's a little too biting almost.
Yeah. So I would check your local water report, see what the sulfites are in your water, and see what you need to do to get those down into a range would be better for this beer, which would be pretty low. Consider reducing your flavor hops. If we think you got that much tannin from the tannin extra protein for the 6 malt, really watch your sparge temperature and your sparge practices. You don't want to be leaching out tannin, so keep stop collecting when your gravity coming out of your mash tuns about 10.8. Don't go below, 7 or 6.0 or whatever on the sparge. Keep the temperature below 170.
And you can also acidify your sparge water. You could take the water that you have and blend it down even a little more with RO or distilled water.
Or add a cap of lactic acid.
You want to use very soft water to make this beer.
Yeah.
That's a question. So
if you've got really carbonate water, that's a problem.
When I checked my pH, it was actually under 5. It was like 4.9.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
Was that after you diluted it out and done whatever to it?
That was during the sparge. No, before or during the mash. Sorry.
Okay.
Right. 5.9?
4.9, he said.
4.9 under 5. I'm like, I've got the test strips, and I'm like checking this. I'm like, this can't be real. But I mean,
right. Well, that's pretty
at some
low.
point, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, that's pretty low, especially given how alkaline you say your water is. So I would definitely get your local water report. You need to know. So I mean, a beer like this is a challenge. It's basically an American light lager with an ale yeast. It's going to show up any process flaws you have. They're going to stand out like a sore thumb. There's no room to hide anything in this kind of a beer. So, yeah, get your water report, see what that's like. Make sure you've got all those sparge parameters we talked about down, and that's not a problem.
But process flaws, there really aren't many here. It's pretty cleanly brewed. It's just, the alcohol pushes up a touch. And
but, a combination of a little bit too much tannin, a little bit too much flavor hop, and maybe a little bit more mineral than you think could be pushing out this kind of flavor we're talking about that's coming across as sulfate or water character somehow.
What about yeast? That's Cal Ale 001?
I think your yeast is fine.
That should be a pretty neutral yeast, unless you're bringing it up to a high ferment temperature. That should work okay.
It was low. I pitched at 55 and tried to keep it. I let it rise up to about 64 or so.
Ooh, 55 is pretty low for
Cal Ale. That is low.
You might almost be pushing it down to sulfur production at that level.
Well, that was my question,
ale yeast will if you take them to low enough temperature, they can go into that sort of lager mode. Yeah,
really?
Might be pumping out some sulfur.
Oh, that's what I was
pitch
wondering.
a little higher.
I wondered if you had used it like a lagering process or a lager yeast even with this, because it did have a little that sulfury character gave it a lager-like impression, which it's meant to be kind of a lager-like beer, which is it's kind of cool that way anyway. But it's definitely an ale. There's very, very low fruitiness in this, just a little bit in there, but as it warmed up. But starting at 55, wow, that is low.
Yeah, I'd push that up to 60.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
60 is going to give you a plenty subdued fruity character.
This yeast is not a big fruit producer at temperature like that. You're not going to get an really estery beer.
Try to get an East Coast yeast. East Coast ale.
East Coast ale.
East Coast ale. Yeah. No.
And then again, I think my last question, guys, would be, okay, so that's a pretty thin beer at 10.05, right?
Yeah.
And that's bottled at 2 3/4 volumes. Could that also, since it's so thin, could that be giving it a little bit of that harshness we're talking about?
That might be what's giving me the impression of the wateriness and the weird kind of watery character combined, because the malt flavors are in there, but it has this watery impression, which could be the low gravity being close to like water gravity. It's like water is 1.000. This is 1.005. It's just like texturally, there's not a lot there. Or texturally.
Yeah, it is by the numbers a little low for the style. But for me, I would worry about all those other things we talked about first. The water and the getting the yeast up a bit higher and controlling all that other stuff. Because if it didn't have some of those sort of pungent things we're calling sulfury, the thinness wouldn't stand out so much. You do want a little bit of sweet.
Okay.
Maybe it's a little much to say you want a little bit of sweetness in the end of this beer, but if you got rid of the sulfury or the hoppy character in here, that side of it would pop out a little more.
Instead of just feeding the yeast at the end of your fermentation too, you might just put the sugar in at the end of your boil, and just long enough to heat it up to boiling temperature, and make a syrup and mix it in with your boil instead. And then let that ferment out, and maybe it won't drive it down quite as far.
I was actually thinking maybe next time just eliminate the sugar completely if it's going to dry out that much.
You could do that too. It'll probably bring your terminal up a point.
Drop the sugar and bump up the corn a little bit. That's not going to hurt you.
Okay.
Yeah. And understand that to really nail this style is a difficult challenge, because you've got to get all these things just figured out perfectly. So if you want to improve your homebrewing skills, this is a great beer to do it on. Because you will have to get this to come out perfect.
You did pretty good.
That's been my kind of my theory behind brewing it. If you can master something like this, you should be okay with bigger stuff with lots of hops.
You make an IPA, and that's going to be like, no problem. Okay,
big old imperial stouts you could hide a truckload of flaws in and still have a good beer. Yeah, they're not here though.
Or blended sours. Yeah.
All right, Tyler, that's it, man. We got to scram.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you sending the beer, man. It was delicious.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
All right, man. You too.
And fun to talk about.
Bye. Good guy.
Yeah.
Good beer, too. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and speak with Garrett with his Smoked Baltic Oaked Deal Mabob Jobber,
which you could hide a truck behind.
That's true.
Yeah.
Dr. Homebrew back after this.
Here comes truck.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Games.
Since the first time the Brewing Network microphones turned on, More Beer was behind it. More Beer sponsors the programming on the BN because, like you, they love brewing. And like the Brewing Network, they love sharing their knowledge. Morebeer.com isn't just a website to place your next equipment or ingredient order. Morebeer.com also gives you access to free beer information that will make you a better brewer. Go to morebeer.com and click into the Learning Center. You'll find podcasts, technical facts, video tutorials, and more, including access to The Buzz, More Beer's social network of more than 5,000 members. And some of them might even be crazier about beer than you are. Get over to morebeer.com today and take advantage of The Buzz, the forum, the Learning Center, and make sure you're signed up to receive the newest More Beer catalog. More Beer, bringing you absolutely everything for beer making.
That's it. I've had it. I am never putting hops in my beer again.
What? Why?
It's just too ridiculous. Insane prices, stupid contracts, high shipping costs, crappy selection.
Dude, you need Nico Brew.
Nico Brew will rock your f***ing face right the f*** off your f***ing skull. $5 shipping to all 50 states. Plus fantastic international rates get you low prices on Nico Brew's great selection of hops and more. Whether you're a home brewer, a pro brewer, or a homebrew shop owner, Nico Brew can get you the hops you need in increments big and small. Single orders, spot buys, or full contracts. And there's only one place to join the uber special secret elite bare bones club where you'll get the best deals anywhere.
Holy f***ing shit.
NicoBrew.com. NIKOBREW. Nico Brew, your bare bones buddy in the brewing business.
Beer tasting games that train your palate, a brewery locator, and the brand new interactive beer style guide. These are just a few of the awesome things you'll find on craftbeer.com. The style guide is a beautiful example of technology in beer. Browse beer style families or turn on the automatic beer style finder and explore beer through color, bitterness, ABV, aroma, and flavor. It's really the coolest way to explore every beer style besides having them all in front of you. Go to craftbeer.com and click on Beer Styles to start the guide. Plus, enjoy the rest of craftbeer.com, the Brewers Banter blogs, beer education, how to host a beer tasting, and the invaluable Draft Quality Manual. Tons of great content that makes your beer better. Visit the new craftbeer.com right now and explore the website that brings you all the passion, camaraderie, and creativity of the craft beer community. Craftbeer.com, celebrating the best of American beer.
Now, back to the examination.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
So, as you know, I went to Walt Disney World. Put Garrett on hold for a second. And they have this food and wine. Here, I'll let Garrett. Garrett, you there?
I am here.
All right, how you doing, buddy?
Real good.
I'm about to rant at Walt Disney World Food and Wine Expo. And I'm going to let you listen just because I don't want to have to call you back. So they have this little craft beer pavilion because, as you guys know, this whole craft beer thing is like really popular.
It's huge now.
Yeah.
It's causing InBev to buy out Miller.
It is.
It's their response to craft beer.
And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, because they can't compete otherwise, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's the only reason for all this.
Right. And they have this pavilion that focuses just on craft beer, local craft beer, but, craft beer in general. And on the outside, they had these little blurbs about what each ingredient in the beer does. Hops and water and whatever. And then they went through style guidelines on the inside, kind of around. And they're very basic, but this is the information that's being put out there. I want to ask you specifically about this one. Water. Water is the most used and also most important ingredient in beer. Okay. Geography plays a role in affecting how good water is for certain styles of beer. For instance, the water in Australia is better for pale ales, while the water in England is better for making stouts. I feel like those two things are not true because if they were true, those would be the popular styles in those areas. Right? I mean, am I stupid or am I real smart?
England surely isn't known for their pale ales.
No.
England isn't known for their stouts. That's for damn sure.
Ireland.
And Australia is not known for their pale ales. Ireland, yes,
well,
of
like
course.
Sparkling ale.
But like they're
pale beer, but,
light lagers, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They do a lot of British style bitters and stuff down there, but that's the same thing.
It's because they got it from the Brits, right?
Right.
So yeah, you're right. It's the water.
It's a little weird.
Blurb is a little bit twisted.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't take the yeast one, but here's the hops one. Hops is the flavoring and stability agent used in all style beer. However, the amount varies by style. Oddly phrased, but okay. At the start of the process, Hops is dried and pelletized for use as a flavoring
Why
agent.
are they referring to hops in the hops singular?
I don't
hops
know.
Is.
Well, also
hops is dried.
Hops
is used.
At the start of what process?
The
process.
There's only one.
I guess involved.
We need to brew some beer today. Okay, let's go dry our hops.
Exactly. That's what I thought too. Here's the best part: hops can be added later. Then what? I don't know. Hops can be added later to include more color and aroma.
If you like green beer.
This is the information that's being put out in Florida about craft beer.
Aroma.
Well, don't learn about beer from the mouse, I guess.
My brother made a beer that he called it Green Hell, and he put so many hops in it that Brother Jimmy's beer was green.
Yeah, and so like extreme
and hazy.
But for the most part, you're not going to. Here's their.
It will change the appearance, but it's not going
right.
to. Yeah, it's not gonna,
I myself have never used hops in an attempt to color a beer.
Coloring agent.
Here's their description of an IPA: a strong and distinctive hoppy flavor with a slightly bitter taste.
Define slightly.
Slightly bitter taste.
Yeah. Here's the description of a pale ale. In the U.S., cleaner yeast is used. Cleaner than...
They like dirty yeast elsewhere.
Exactly. That's the implication, right?
Yeast.
And the hops are ramped up during brewing, making it a spicy beer.
So you have to have a hop ramp.
Yeah. Well, I love those U.S. Spicy pale ales that are made with cleaner yeast. I love them. I think they're so amazing.
A nice spicy pale yeast.
Anyway, I wanted you guys to all know what I had to go through down in Florida. It was terrible. It's a beer wasteland still. Whatever.
You didn't get any Cigar City down there?
I got one can of their brown ale, and it was fine. Bless you, Garrett.
Well, you'd say cleaner fermenting, like as in it doesn't produce as many yeast characteristics. Like so, the British yeast. Is
but at that point, just leave it out. There's no need to even bring it. What kind of yeast you're including in a pale ale because most punters don't know. Anyway, whatever. That's what I had to do. Garrett.
Hi, Garrett.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, buddy?
Real good.
We've had you on before, and this is like your third appearance on the show, right? Second.
Repeat offender.
Only one second.
There's his.
That's me.
That's his thing. Okay, so we'll spare everybody the how long you've been homebrewing kind of thing, and just jump right into your beer. Is this the first time you've done a giant, complex beer like this? I mean, it's a smoked Baltic porter with 3 smoked malts and then aged on oak.
Yeah, so actually this is a kind of a new version of a beer that I've been brewing for a while.
Okay.
This started out as a clone of my favorite smoked beer, which in fact I sent you a bottle of a while back, and you got to try.
Yes, that's right.
Yep. So that's the source beer was the Surly Smoke Lager. And I've brewed that clone for several years now. It's done really, really well for me in competition. In fact, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, I got a gold in the MCAB with that one and a bronze the year before.
Nicely done.
So, yeah. So, man, thank you. It's like I say, it's done really well for me. The problem I've had with this beer is it's really been inconsistent when I brewed it. Mm-hmm. I've come to learn that a lot of that has to do with this, what I think it is the Wireman smoked malt. And that really reared its head when I went to do this batch, and thus I had some really drastic recipe changes. The original recipe didn't have the cherrywood smoked malt and didn't have the oak smoked wheat in it. It was just straight Wireman smoked malt at about 30%. And when I went to go grab ingredients this time around, I'm weighing out the grain, and I'm not smelling any smoke out of this malt.
That's no good.
So I'm starting to stress, and so I bumped the Wireman malt from 5 pounds up to 11 pounds, and then reduced the base malt accordingly. I'm still not really... I'm still worried that I'm not going to get enough smoke, so at this point I've cashed out the smoked malt in my homebrew shop, and they've got some cherry wood, and I've played with that before. I don't like using a lot of it because I think it gives you a really bacony smoke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it just didn't appeal to me. But so I threw a pound of that in there, and it's still not right. Hey, what's this oak smoked wheat? So I threw a pound of that in there, and you have the result in front of you.
It doesn't have enough smoke. Doesn't have enough smoke.
Oh, shit.
A little more of this. A little more of that. Oh, okay, here we go.
And And that's always the complaint, or not so much a complaint, but the feedback that I get on score sheets for this beer is like, well, the smoke's just really subtle. I don't get subtle. In fact, for the beer you guys have in front of you, it just went through 2 competitions in the last month, and I got back in the notes again. Could use more smoke, and I don't get that. I think it's a smoke bomb. But what do you guys think?
Lee, what do you think? Why don't you start us off? Unless Brian's about ready to jump in.
Lee doesn't think it's a smoke bomb, but I think it's a smoke bomb. There's your answer.
No,
all right, Garrett, we'll talk to you later.
It's pretty close to being a smoke bomb. This is very smoky beer. I mean, my comment in the overall was, what is it? Oh, where did I put this? Good smoke blend. I mean, I think what people think about this, a lot of it's going to depend on how much they like smoke. I think this is balanced heavily to smoke. Overall, for the aroma, smoky aroma with bacony and autumn leaves hints, medium-high, pleasant, not much acrid here. So it's pretty nice, smooth smoke for the most part. No hops. Base malt and some cocoa chocolate aromas come through. Smoke dominates the aroma. No esters, no other ferment character noted. It's basically smoke with a little bit of supporting malt in the nose. Pours a low tan foam, which fades quickly to a thin bead. Black. Clarity, I wasn't really sure. It looked pretty opaque, actually. Still, if I hold it up to the light bulb, maybe it's not opaque, but it's so dark it's hard to tell, and it probably doesn't mean anything. Flavor. Strong blended smoke flavors over lower chocolate ashy malt flavor. Smoke dominates. No hop flavor, supporting IBUs only. I mean, it's a nice balance there. Finish is slightly sweet with lingering smoke and cocoa and ash. Slightly low, but drying. Low. What do I mean low? Who knows what I wrote? Very smoke forward.
Can't read your writing.
My comment here, yeah. Very smoke forward. Some late caramel emerges, no ferment character, but this is a very smoke forward beer. I have had smokier. Mm-hmm. I've even had smokier that was still nice. I've had plenty of smokier that wasn't nice. This is a very smoke forward beer, though.
Yes.
Medium high body, medium low carbonation. Could use a little more carbonation, actually, which actually helps drive the smokiness. That's a very volatile aroma, those phenols.
Sure.
So, if you have your carbonations low, you might not be driving the smoke as much. Low clean alcohol warmth, not creamy or stringent, though a little bit drying, probably again from the smoke and a little bit of the dark malt characteristics. Overall, clean, very smoke-forward Baltic Porter. Smoke heads will love this, and others won't. Smoke flavor is clean with little acrid character. It's pretty nice smoke character. Good blend of smoke. I mean, I could tell that this isn't any one particular smoke. And we saw the Wireman, the Rauch malt plus the cherry plus the oak. It's a very nice blend you put together here, actually.
I agree.
Even if it was randomly selected, which kind of sounds like from your spiel about what you did at the homebrew shop.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I took what they had.
Yeah, but it worked. You got lucky on that.
I know that mode is like, what do I have around me? What can I do?
Yeah. So it's a good smoke blend. The base beer, it can be almost lost in the mix. Some chocolate comes through, a little bit of caramel later. And the ferment seems clean as far as I could tell. Baltic Porter, that's an important thing. But really the balance is to the smoke. I mean, you could call this a porter, a Baltic Porter, almost even a stout. The base beer is almost the particulars of the style of the base beer at this level of smoke intensity. I mean, you have to declare one, but it's almost not that important. This is really smoky beer.
Smoky bear?
That said, smoky beer, yeah, smoky beer.
Only you can drink this beer.
Only you can put this beer out of its misery.
I lost audio.
Yeah, no, I liked it. It's definitely very smoke heavy beer. So people are saying they're not getting enough smoke malt? I don't know.
I wonder if
you've got some of your bottles that are undercarbonated, that might not be driving it enough. It might make that impression come through.
Or if your beer is judged 12th in a sequence of 12 beers on a heavy flight on some homebrew competition there, or the judges are just fatigued as hell and they've tasted smoked beer after smoked beer.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe they're not getting it.
Maybe they're not getting it. Because, I mean, smoke is the sort of thing that will fatigue the palate pretty quickly.
Very quickly.
And the other thing is, I'm not really familiar with the beer you modeled this on, the Surly Smoked Dark Lager. I don't know what that tastes like or how smoky it is. And if even though this is very smoky, if you haven't matched that intensity and all your local judges know that and they're thinking that when they drink it, maybe they think this isn't smoky enough. I don't know.
I'm sure they work to balance it. Would you say yours is higher or lower than the one you're styling it after?
What you guys have in front of you, I think, is smokier. The original recipe, I think, matches it pretty dead on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. Having had that beer before,
Obviously you didn't share it with us.
I didn't share it with you. No,
Damn you.
I didn't. But I have shared other beers with you, and I do that.
You've shared some good beers with us. Yes,
That's right.
you have.
That's
Yeah.
right.
JP,
Yeah.
thank you for
No,
that.
I think this is I give this a 37. I really like this beer. I think it's a very good beer.
Do you think like and I don't know what this is, but in my brain, it's the cherry wood in the middle kind of thing. There's this extra level of cherry wood sweetness. And do you think that can be squishing people's perception of the smoke because of the cherry smoke malt? Like if you took that out, it would obviously be different, but would it give like less of a perception of extra sweetness?
I don't know. I mean, the cherry wood might give sweet. You have to be careful with the cherry wood. Sometimes it give you a little bit of sweetness. Sometimes it give you a lot of acrid. You don't want to use a lot of that stuff. Actually, a pound. How big a batch is this? 10 gallons? 5? 5, yeah. A pound of cherry wood actually is almost more than I would recommend using. The other thing to keep in mind, so there's a few other things to keep in mind here. Smoke. It can be different batch to batch. You're using commercially available smoke grains, so hopefully they're pretty well controlled, but they might not always be the same lot to lot. So if you're thinking the Wireman wasn't as smoky as usual, it might have been an issue with that particular lot of smoked malt they had in that week or month or shipment, I guess would be the way to think about it.
I actually had that conversation with the head brewer at Surly, and we were talking about that beer, and at one point they had added cherry wood into one of their batches one year because the Wireman wasn't as smoky. And his thought was that, coming out of the factory, it's probably all the same, but you don't know how long it's sat on a container ship, coming over here, and then into a warehouse, and so on and so forth before it hit the brew house.
That's
and
also
smoke
possible,
will dissipate.
Yeah. It will dissipate.
And they want to work hard to keep their product as balanced the way it always has been for their consumers. They're a pretty big brewery now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the way the smoke lasts that long and how strong the batch is. The other thing is, and I assume your homebrew shop is totally in control of this because you've got a good homebrew shop. There are 3 different grades of Wireman smoked malt. And if they're not getting the same one they used to, or they got a different one in that shipment, that can make a difference.
Yeah. I didn't know there were 3 grades.
There at least were a few years ago 3 different intensities of smoked malt you could buy. And I don't know if they were different smokes or they're just sort of blends of smoked malt and Pils malt to get different average intensity. But that's another thing. The other thing is, honestly, your perceptions of it when you go into the store might vary a lot depending on how your sensory apparatus is working on that given day. If you got a little plugged up nose, you might not pick it up as much, and you might start thinking this stuff is way less than it used to be.
Yeah.
I've noticed,
that day I was throwing the stuff in my mouth and chewing it up, and I'm like, where's the smoke?
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, smoke is not a flavor your tongue picks up. So that's really all going nasal, retronasal, and it's going to depend how well that part of your anatomy is working.
Understood.
Yeah. That said, that may not be the highest ranking thing on the list as to what might affect it, but
I mean, it is a malt that's designed to be the base malt in your beer and not just an addition. Whereas the cherry wood is something you add a little bit to get the smoke character that you want to get to.
Yeah,
the environment, and you can make a whole beer, but that, as you did with this, is the base malt. So it might not be if you're chewing it, as overtly smoky as if you're like chewing something else and really smoky. So yeah.
I mean, if you're home smoking malt, you always want to take a little chunk of it aside and do like a little test mash and figure out what the intensity is and exactly how much you want to use. We would all love to think that we never have to do that with a commercially available product, and maybe that's true. I'm just not 100% sure that it always is. So there's those things to think about. As for the people who say you don't have enough smoke in here, Well, I don't know. I don't know what preconceptions they have, but this is a pretty smoky beer. I mean,
Yes.
I'm a kind of a smokehead. I love I love a Schlenkerla like almost nothing else.
Yeah.
I love a good smoke bomb, and this is hitting it for me. I think you've got a
Absolutely.
lot of smoke in here.
Brian, young man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good job, young man. Yes.
Lee's doing a good job covering this beer, and
Yeah, sorry, I've raved on into
he has raved
most of
on,
Brian's
yeah.
time here.
that's okay. I also enjoyed the beer. I thought it was also a very good example of a smoked beer, but I would lean towards more agreeing with Garrett on this, that it is pretty much a smoke bomb, and Lee pretty much is like, it's bordering on smoke bomb too, but it's not. I mean, it's not the most intensely smoky beer I've ever had. There's some beers that are way out of balance, just way. This is like leaning towards pretty firmly towards the smoky side of the spectrum, but not into offensive territory like that. So it was richly smoky with a medium roast, light chocolate, and a nice moderate smokiness in the aroma. It did come across kind of cherrywood-like to me if I had been asked to guess. We were actually just judging it and smelling it, and JP's like, there's cherrywood malt here. I was like, yes. And I was like, it does have that little kind of bacony character in the aroma. I thought I got a little hint of some soy sauce in the aroma. Nothing offensive, but just a little soy sauce oxidation with some dark malt components in there, but not harsh or anything, but just a little edge of that. Didn't distract me too much. No obvious hop, low esters, hiding behind everything else that's in here. Good balance overall between the elements. It seems like a cleanly brewed beer, just right in the aroma. It's very inviting, and color-wise is interesting because it's just so rich and black and dark. Almost no head though. It did. I think I agree with Lee there. Definitely the carbonation was lacking a little bit, at least in this bottle that we got. So we'll forgive a little bit of that sometimes and try to taste as if it was like pushing a little more smoke, but that might push it over the top in the smokiness category if it's doing that. So have to be careful.
In fact, I'm drinking it out of the keg right now, and it's got giant head stand on it. So I think it's something a little bit from the bottling.
Yeah, that happens.
Was this bottle conditioner or a counter pressure fill?
Counter pressure.
Keg fill, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
hard to tell. The beer is so
tiny-
dark, I can't see.
Our glass, it looks just flat on the top, and there's a little ring of fine bubbles around the edge when you first pour it, and that's about it. But can't really tell the clarity. Two of your bottles were counter pressure filled, and then the third one was a last minute tap fill. So you guys are hitting the bad, the ugly one right now.
Well, we've opened two of them. They've both been pretty low gas.
This one might be lower than the first, actually. Yeah, it seems really low. Can't tell the clarity though; it's pretty opaque and pitch black almost there. So, I guess if you look at the bottom of the glass, you can see a little brownish tinge at the edges there. Yeah. The flavor, rich, roasty, and a slightly biting smokiness, kind of campfire-like. Because there is campfires kicking off a lot of different compounds, and this has a lot of different smoked malts in it that are putting out a lot of different flavors, and bacony, woody. A lot of different smoke things going on there. Balance to the malt, but the smoke lingers in the aftertaste forever. And you belch up a little bit. It's like, oh, there's that smoke again. Wow. So, a fair amount of alcohol is obvious, as this style should have, and that's fine. The bitterness was kept medium low. Seems like it's in the right place. Style-wise, I didn't have too many complaints about the beers. The alcohol was maybe a little warm, but I might be just combining with the smoke to just give it an impression of intensity.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you might, it's hard to tell if there's some higher alcohols in this or not. I don't know what you fermented at. I'm sure you know what you're doing there, but finish is kind of, there's a little bit of sweetness left in the finish. It's not completely, it's not dry. It's not really sweet. It's just kind of medium, between sweet and dry, kind of medium finish. Body wise, medium full body with substantial warmth. It's hard to get a creaminess out of this. It's not super smooth. There's a little bit of something from the dark malts in there that has a little bit of a coffee and cream impression. I'm not talking about flavor wise, but like it's a little bit smooth in the mouthfeel, but not intense. And it's like the smoke is a little biting and kind of fights with everything else. I didn't get really any real astringency in here. It seems like you kept that in check. But again, the smoke was just kind of biting, and carbonation was kind of low, medium low, just kind of out of the way in this bottle. But yeah, that's actually fine for this for now. So yeah, I think the base style, the recipe for the Baltic Porter, and the ingredients that you use seem pretty nice. Just a bit high on the smoke. The smoke character is somewhat harsh and attacking. I would really lighten up on that a little bit myself, not to discredit the other judges that have tasted the same beer. And it could be that maybe their bottles were more carbonated and it was, well, no, that would drive more smoke flavor. I don't know what's going on in their heads. Again, the flight of 12 smoky beers will play all kinds of tricks with your palate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can play with different varieties of smoke. It was an interesting experiment for you, at least combining all these different varieties that you did. But I would stick to the German one, the Weyermann stuff there, and just brew with that until you get it the way you want and get the balance you want. If you are getting some higher alcohols in this, keep the ferment temp in check. I'm sure you're probably temp controlled and everything. But
yeah, it's a lager ferment, so I got to keep it low.
Yeah. What kind of yeast was it?
White Labs 830.
Okay. But it's a pretty good job of having the style come through a little bit underneath all that smoke. But it could come through a lot more. And one trick would be to just beef up the chocolate malt a little bit with this if you want to keep this level of smoke and have it come through. Even bump your recipe up to where it shouldn't be if it was just a Baltic Porter by itself, and push some of the middle malts up in there. I'm getting enough roasts, but like kind of the middle chocolatey and light chocolate. Some pale chocolate might be nice in this, just to give it a little more complexity on the malt side to balance against all that smoke, if you're keeping that, and if the other judges want that level or higher. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good beer. I gave it a 33. To me, it was just, the smoke was a little over the top, and I like it a little more subdued and balanced with everything else. But it's a cleanly brewed beer and nicely done. It's in the very good range still for me as well, as Lee is. So thanks for sharing it. And it was, I'm sure you'll perfect it the next time and send us the final. Like, hey, I nailed it, guys.
Yeah,
this is perfect.
I hope so.
To your palate, because it seems like you understand where we're at, judging the level of the smoke, and you're with us. It's on the higher end, and you understand that. Sorry, the judges that didn't understand the other judges, but
yeah, I think, because I've had the various versions of this beer in so many competitions over the last 4 years, I think it's really subjective when it comes to the smoke levels.
What did they score? What did they score, if you don't mind my asking?
For this particular batch, I got a 39.5 and a 36.3 were the combined scores.
Yeah,
that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The previous ones where it didn't have all the extra smoke malt and just the base Weyermann, the highest I ever pulled was a 48, but generally speaking, it was in the low 40s.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, maybe backtracking to what you're doing there will certainly get you better comp scores. One thing I would say about this, and I'm looking at your the recipe sheet that you sent here.
Sure.
So one of the things about this beer is that the smoke really overbalances the base beer. You could call this a robust porter or a Baltic porter. It almost wouldn't matter. But the Baltic porter concept is good because they tend to be richer and a little bit sweeter. And sweet, well, not necessarily sweet, but rich is good to balance smoke. If you think like a Schlenkerla, even just the regular Marzen, it's got a pretty rich malt body behind it. It helps balance that smoke out.
All that Munich-y.
Yeah, all that Munich-y character. And you mash this at 148, which I could see for doing a big beer. But it might actually help this beer. I mean, if you want to do this variant of it again, bring that mash temperature up a few points, get a little bit more residual higher sugars that aren't necessarily sweet, but add some more richness to the body in there. And that'll help balance out the smoke a little better. It might help it present the base beer style a little better too. because compared to most Baltic porters, the smoke is exacerbating it mightily, but this is pretty dry for a Baltic porter. So bringing out dry, that richness, not necessarily sweetness, but richness by a higher mash temperature, but making sure your ferment completes well, your fermentation completes and gets rid of all the sugars, might actually help the balance of this beer a little bit.
What did it finish out at? Gravity-wise?
Notes. We started out at about 1097, and I think I finished at about 1018.
That is pretty low, yeah.
Yeah,
starting that
but
high.
A beer that big could almost go a little higher, up into the mid-20s. You might actually get a better balance. Mid-20s, even upper 20s for a terminal.
Yeah.
But to do that, you'll have to raise up the mash temperature. You probably don't want to add a whole lot more roast grains in that because it'll get too astringent.
Yes.
You could consider adding in some more... wait, what have you got here? Some more carrots or crystals, things like that. Which there's really not much of in here, is there?
Yeah, well, 4 ounces of chocolate in there, and that's it.
It's chocolate, Carafa Black, and some aromatic. Yeah, so maybe a little bit of that sort of stuff might help. But if you don't want to go that route because you don't like the crystals, then raise up the mash temperature. Get some more higher residual sugars in there to help balance all that smoke out. And it'll present better as a smoky beer and as a Baltic porter, I would think.
Yeah, and or bump up the chocolate.
Give that a try.
Or pale,
add the chocolate.
Pale chocolate.
Yeah. Although, if your previous recipe you were getting 48-point score sheets, you should really just tell us to shut up.
Keep brewing that beer. And,
just do that again and send us a bottle.
And again, it's the variability with that Wireman malt that from batch to batch, it would swing.
Yeah.
Something else I found that age really helps this beer.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it does.
And in fact, so this one was brewed in May. The beer that took the gold at NCAB was probably 2.5 years old when it was judged.
Secret weapon beer. Here you go, guys.
Yeah. 2.5 years old.
Well, yeah, and smoke does fabulous, interesting, unpredictable things over time too, and. Beers like that, they'll dry out any residual sugar they can. But, yes. I mean, I've done tastings of, various smoked beers at different ages, and they can just do wonderful things over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, those flavors will just melt and just get, that beer's going to get happy.
Garrett, do you have any more questions for the guys?
So if I wanted to convert this to an ale recipe, what would you guys recommend me using just for, in terms of, turning over quick batches for an experiment?
Well, I mean, basically you're talking about turning it from a Baltic into maybe like a robust porter, at least in terms of the yeast. I wouldn't go hoppy like that, though. I don't know. Any ale yeast that turns your crank, keep the ferment temperature low. I don't think you want a whole lot of esters in here.
So just cal ale or something like that. Keep it clean.
I'm sorry?
Cal ale, yeah.
So just use a cal ale. Keep it clean.
Cal ale, yeah, that could probably work.
In the low
at a
60s.
Not very high ferment temperature. You don't want to go down to 55. Start it.
No.
Maybe pitch at 60, 62, and keep it down below 65.
Sure.
At a guess. So you don't. I mean, a little bit of ester is okay, but you don't want to turn this into an ester bomb. That just is going to be kind of weird with the smoke.
No, it'll class with all the smoke phenols, and then you're going to get something really, really weird. So, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but you could make a great present drinking smoke beer with that. I mean, I actually did something like that recently with a low-gravity version of a Rauk beer. Just picked cal ale yeast. Kept the temperature down. Oh, it was nice.
Nice.
Yeah. And you don't get a lot of esters when you do that. I mean, that was like a 1037, 1038 starting gravity, so you have a little more risk for esters if you're going up to a 1097. But you keep the temperature down, and you don't want to be an absolutist about it. You'll get a good result.
Yeah, somebody's like, "Hey, Garrett, brew one of those killer smoke beers for our Christmas party," and you're like, "Oh shit,
and
we don't have time to do a lager."
Right? Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. All right, Garrett, that's it, man.
Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. You know what you're doing. Yeah, sorry for the. I probably should be up where Lee is score wise. I'm actually enjoying sipping this.
I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about that stuff. It's the feedback that matters to me.
Cool. Yeah, you know what you're doing, and the one thing I wanted to say is not everybody is like you going into the homebrew shop and chewing on the malt and tasting and saying, does this vary from the last malt that I used? And really paying that kind of attention to the ingredients that you're putting to your beer. So, kudos to you for that and paying that level of attention to the detail. Don't psych yourself out too much at the same time, but I mean, some people are just like, okay, I need 4 ounces of this, 3 ounces of that, even with the hops. They don't adjust for alphas, and you're doing all of that. So you got your technique down. You're doing
great.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
So thanks again.
Cool.
Thanks, Garrett.
I love hearing it. Thanks, guys.
Bye, buddy.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. All right. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and do some awards, and then get out of here. It's Dr. Homebrew. Thanks for sticking with us. Stay tuned.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star San, SaniClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today. High Gravity Homebrewing Supplies wants you to keep it simple. Brewing should be fun. And with High Gravity's amazing electric brewing systems, it is. High Gravity keeps their brewing systems simple, on purpose. More efficient than gas, customizable, and with your choice of 1, 2, or 3 vessels, High Gravity's electric brewing systems will completely change the way you brew beer, formulate recipes, and improve your beer's consistency. Dave at High Gravity can customize your system to fit your needs. High Gravity invites you to visit their Build Your Own Brewery page and see how easy it can be to brew electric. And High Gravity offers $7.99 flat rate shipping on most of their products. www.highgravitybrew.com. High Gravity. Keep it electric. Keep it simple. Visit highgravitybrew.com. Admitted. Homebrewing is not always free of frustrations. Years ago, brothers Bill and Jim Mitchell decided to minimize those frustrations and create an entirely new brewing process and a brand new kitchen appliance, the Pico Brew Zymatic. The Zymatic sits on your kitchen counter and connects to the internet via Wi-Fi. It comes with access to a huge recipe library full of award-winning beers and can brew your next batch at the push of a button. Improve repeatability and refine your recipes with the Pico Brew Zymatic. With minimal cleaning and hassle, the Zymatic enables anyone to brew craft beer in the comfort of their own kitchen. Just add your ingredients and the process of homebrewing becomes simplified and automatic, allowing you to focus on what really matters while you brew. At Pico Brew, they believe everyone should be able to enjoy the art of homebrewing and make their own damn good craft beer. See the Zymatic in action today at picobrew.com.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're going to have to pour you out.
Back to Dr. Homebrew.
We were just talking at the break about the new Star Wars movie that's coming out, and I find it fascinating that they're selling little figurines and merch from the new movie about the main characters that nobody knows really anything about, except maybe in theory, and that's it. Like, what if these characters are stupid? Then you have.
I hope this guy's as cool as Boba Fett.
There's got to be a couple that won't be stupid. You would hope.
Right?
And you staple the receipt that you bought it before the movie to the back of the unopened package. Will be worth more down the road, right?
Well, that's what they say.
Yeah.
But I don't know about that. I did that with the Darth Maul character. His little figurine is real hard to find. You just go on eBay. It's the same exact price. Nothing ever really goes up in price anymore, but everyone likes to think they do. Okay, anyway, so we have a couple of awards to give away. Number one is our Grog Tag $40. At least your beer will look good. gift certificate. That's to grogtag.com, and they, of course, do customizable, reusable homebrew labels, wine labels, mini tags, coasters, metals, all sorts of stuff for your home bar and your home wine, your home beer. It's really great. If you don't have any artistic ability, GrogTag will take care of it because
supply that for you.
They will. You just fill out the templates and you pick your style of label there, and everything's great. Or if you do have artistic talent, then you can actually upload your own image and get your own face printed on there or whatever.
A wedding coming up, and you want your bride's picture painted onto your beer bottles.
Get Nana's face for her 90th or whatever. Exactly. They'll do it for you. Grogtag.com. Check them out. And then, of course, we have the High Gravity Brew.com award for the we haven't really named it because they don't have like a tagline, like the Grog tag.
High Gravity Brew Award.
High Gravity Brew Award, for the there you go.
You've got
what's the gal's name
gravity.
there again?
What more's it need?
Desiree.
Let's just call it the Desiree Award.
The Desiree. Ooh.
How about
Brian
that?
wins.
The Desiree Award for Brewing Excellence.
The Desiree Award for Brewing Excellence, and that goes to the fella.
The higher scoring.
The fella with the higher scoring.
Well, it's
right.
not always the fella, usually. But
actually, no, you're right. But I think in December I'm talking to a lovely lady called Jess, and she's going to send some beer in, and I think that will be officially the second or maybe third woman we've had on the show in 2 years.
Is that it?
Yeah.
We don't get to talk to women very often.
We don't really. This is all an excuse to do that.
It's a cloistered world dominated by monks and guys who live like that.
That's
Please,
true.
Bring more.
So, go check out highdgravitybrew.com. They have everything you need to make a bunch of beer. They have electric brewing and, of course, the gas-fired standard stuff. They have Blickman kettles. They have ingredients. They have all sorts of great stuff. So check them out, too. So, anyways, the winner of the Grog Tag, $40, at least your beer will look good. Gift certificate is Tyler.
Tyler.
Woo!
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Hey. So that means, Garrett, you win the High Gravity Award. The Desiree Award for Brewing Excellence.
Award for Brewing Excellence.
Yes. So good job on that one, buddy. And then that's it. We're done, right?
That's it.
I can
Right.
go pee.
Yeah, you can. Hey, so do you think of the new Star Wars movie? Are they going to have like Lagunitas IPA product placement like they did in the Muppets show?
They might, man. Maybe. Who knows? I hope not.
Like an old Luke Skywalker, sipping a bottle of Lagunitas on some other planet.
In the background, they have a tap.
It's a long time ago, so it's in the past, and Lagunitas didn't exist. So.
Well, but prefiguring. I don't know. How about Chewie with a bottle of 50-50?
That'd be great. You can call it Chewie. I read online some theory about the animated movie Aladdin that actually takes place in some dystopian future instead of in the past, because when the genie comes out, he's like referencing Groucho Marx and referencing things that happened in the 80s. Yeah. Right. But and then he says, I've been in the bottle for 10,000 years. So if he's been in the bottle, how did he know about it?
Post-apocalyptic desert.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So peep that one out. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, for hanging with us. This has been Dr. Homebrew. Before we get out of here, if you're thirsty for more beer information, check out the other shows we have on the Brewing Network. There's The Session, there's the Jamil shows, there's the Sour Hour. You name it, and we talk about it. So, be sure to peruse and, rate us on iTunes and do all that kind of funky stuff that all you kids seem to be into these days. Anyway, Brian Lee, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you.
Thank you very much.
And you who will be on the sequel, Aladdin 2, 10,000 years in the future.
Electric Boogaloo.
As yourself.
All right, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you next time. This has been Dr. Homebrew.
Woo.